All right, so Twitter permanently bans Marjorie Taylor Greene. BBC News says Marjorie Taylor Greene, Twitter bans Congresswoman over COVID misinformation. So, I believe this is the fifth strike. It's the fifth strike for Marjorie Taylor Greene. So they say Representative Greene came out and said the ban proved that the company is, quote, an enemy to America. In a lengthy statement posted to the social media outlet Telegram, the 47-year-old said social media platforms can't stop the truth from being spread far and wide, and accused Twitter of aiding unidentified enemies in a communist revolution. Yeah, Twitter, super communist. Her official congressional account, which staffers appear to post on infrequently, remains active. So she still has an account, but it's her official Congress account. Her personal account was the one that was banned. The Congresswoman's ban comes after she tweeted on Saturday falsely about extremely high amounts of COVID vaccine deaths in the U.S. In a statement issued to the BBC, a Twitter spokesperson said that Representative Greene has been banned for repeated violations of its coronavirus misinformation policy, which allows for 4 strikes, not 5, with varying suspensions from the platform before issuing a permanent ban. The social media giant had issued her with a 4th strike in August after she falsely posted that coronavirus vaccines were failing and called on regulators not to approve the new shots. Quote, we've been clear that per our strike system for this policy, we will permanently suspend accounts for repeated violations of the policy, the spokesperson said. So, every time she was banned, she definitely said stuff that was verifiably incorrect. There's a lot of COVID misinformation out there. There's no doubt about it. Now, it's also true, though, that the official, like the CDC and all the official institutions also have gotten things wildly wrong about COVID every step of the way. Remember Fauci early on saying masks don't work. There's no reason to wear a mask. Well, that switched pretty soon. Remember early on when everybody would say it's misinformation, it should be banned to say that COVID may have come from a lab in Wuhan. Well, now we know that's not so crazy, that in fact it is likely that it came from there. You had people who were directly involved with this admitting, yeah, it could have come from there. Even Fauci in emails admitting, yeah, it could have come from there. So there's a problem here. Marjorie Taylor Greene spreads dangerous misinformation, without a doubt. But also, there's been misinformation at every step of this propaganda from every corner. So even though what she's doing is dangerous and wrong and terrible, I don't think you can ban her. Because any sort of objective upholding of the standard would have the frickin' CDC banned from Twitter and the World Health Organization and the UN and Fauci himself and almost every politician in the U.S. Because when you're trying to figure out what's going on in a pandemic, sometimes you latch onto something and you promote it and it turns out to not be true. And that's happened so many times in this pandemic. The whole problem with Twitter doing what they're doing here is, who's going to fact check the fact checkers? Who's going to watch the watchmen? You can't have a Ministry of Truth because the Ministry of Truth has its own blind spots and its own biases and its own issues. And so nobody can exercise that power accurately and correctly. So you just can't have a situation where you ban people for stuff like this. Now, again, I say this fully understanding that it's not a good solution. It's just the least bad solution. And we've seen it time and time again. I just don't like this ban-happy stuff. I don't like this massive slippery slope that we've already gone fully down. You know, because it's for everything. You saw Hassan Piker and Vosh got suspended from Twitch because they said the word cracker. Vosh didn't even use it calling anybody a cracker. He was just talking about the term cracker, and he was banned for it. I mean, there were prominent Antifa accounts that were banned on Twitter. So I know originally people were like, get rid of the far-right accounts, and people would rejoice if there was some extremist on the right who were kicked off. But now you've laid the groundwork and the precedent is set, and of course the right is going to scream bloody murder, and then they'll turn around and start banning lefties. We saw this with the Proper Not blacklist. Remember when, oh my God, Russian disinformation, and these are bot accounts, and these are accounts that are doing the bidding of foreign governments. And then Twitter banned all these lefty accounts, and they weren't even the things that they said they were. They weren't Russian accounts or anything like that. So you have to lean on the side of freedom as much as possible. And the fact of the matter is, she's a congresswoman. She has her official Congress Twitter account now. And she has every right to, if she wants to, take it away from her staff, and then she's going to start tweeting through her official congressional account. So on top of disagreeing with it in principle, It's also the case that it's not going to have any effect at all because then she's going to tweet from there. Now, my guess is she's going to keep doing COVID misinformation, and then they'll ban that too. Well, look, this happened with Trump too. On some social media sites, they gave him basically the internet death penalty. I don't agree with that. And I do think it's a powerful response when people also say, you have Taliban leaders who are active on Twitter, but Trump is banned and Marjorie Taylor Greene is banned. That doesn't make any sense. Now, what they say is, well, it's about violations of our policies. So Trump violated the policies while using Twitter. The Taliban people didn't do it. But that almost shows how hollow the idea is in the first place because, you could have ruthless, vicious murderers and people who do genocide or people who are serial rapists or whatever. As long as they don't violate COVID policies, they're totally fine to talk. But if you violate a Twitter policy, you get banned. It's so arbitrary and it makes absolutely no sense. And I don't agree with that. I don't agree with it at all. So, I wouldn't ban these people. I want to see what the crazy people are saying. I want to see what they're saying. And I don't think banning it even has the desired effect. Now you just made them martyrs, and now you made it so this stuff it's the Streisand effect, right? You're going to make it so more people flock to whatever the nonsense is that they're saying. I mean, I just saw right before I came on air, Joe Rogan, I think YouTube banned certain clips from Rogan's podcast when Rogan was talking to these anti-vaccine doctors. And understand something. I think that I saw one of those clips, and I think the guy's wrong. I mean, look, there's a reason. We have, 1 million doctors in the U.S., and even if 1% of them are pushing anti-vax stuff, you do the math on that. What is it? 10,000 doctors who believe in the incorrect position, and they're against the vaccines. So, but what are you going to do? Just ban any of them and all of them from ever talking about it on any social media platform? You can't do that. You can't do that. But they're effectively trying to do it. And if anything, now more people are going to flock to Spotify. And Streisand effect is going to have the opposite of the intended effect. You think you're policing discourse for the better, but you're not. And even if I actually agree on the substance here, which I do, that Marjorie Taylor Greene spreads dangerous COVID vaccine misinformation, one of the Joe Rogan guests or 2 of them were spreading COVID misinformation. Even if I agree with that, and I do, you're not going about it the right way. This isn't what you do. You can't just ban it. You can't just say, well, it's like covering your eyes and going, la, 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 it doesn't exist, la, 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 la. It's childish. And what we need to do is set up a system where all the big social media outlets are effectively protected by the First Amendment. You regulate them as public utilities. You expand free speech protections. Now, that doesn't mean you could do libel, slander, defamation, direct threats of violence, doxing, targeted harassment. All those things would still be illegal. But at least you'd have an open and transparent process whereby you go through it. And you don't have tech oligarchs with shadowy boards that have their own biases and their own problems making all the decisions. So even though I despise Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think she's wrong about all this stuff about COVID, you can't do this. You just can't do this. And by the way, it is, 20% of the population, 25% of the population that believes in anti-vaccine conspiracies to one extent or another? You just want to ban them all from social media? Now, okay, maybe some of you listen and you go, yes. Okay, well then just at least own the fact that you're deeply authoritarian. At least own it. You could take that position, but you can't turn around and say, I believe in social freedoms. No, you don't. That's the definition of authoritarianism is I don't like it, ban it. Banning people from saying things that are wrong. People are allowed to say wrong things. I don't know how else to put it, but you need to, if you're on the left, you have to actually embrace the leftist position. A true commitment to freedom of speech and open discourse and dialogue. And a lot of these people are charlatans and they're con men and they're frauds. But you have to address that head on. You can't just go ban happy because, of course, on top of it being wrong in principle, it's also going to start hitting people you like and you care about. And it may even hit genuine experts. Anti-imperialist voices were the first on the chopping block in the Google algorithm with that proper not thing. Chris Hedges talked about that. His outlets were totally deranked in the algorithm. This YouTube channel is totally deranked in the YouTube algorithm. This is what happens when you start micromanaging it. It's the establishment that controls the narrative and controls the boards and the powers that determine what happens, and they're always going to prioritize in a way that's best for them. For them. And sometimes they'll get it right on the substance like they do about COVID vaccines, but oftentimes they'll get it wrong on the substance, like when it comes to war, for example. So anyway, there you have it. Do not bring her back. I hate her, but she shouldn't be banned. She's just going to go use her congressional thing anyway, but we're already way down the slippery slope, and I don't think there's any going back, and that's not good for anybody, especially if you're somebody on the left who might have some edgy views. You think your views are common sense and obvious, but a lot of people disagree with them. You know, you might be like, oh, yeah, let's ban the far right, but then at a certain point, they'll scream bloody murder, and Twitter might turn around and ban all tankies or all communists or all Marxists or even socialists. I mean, the U.S. government had listed among a group of extremists with, like, far-right groups, they also just put socialists. I remember that story from Ken Klippenstein covering it. So be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. If you want to see me and Crystal Ball interview legends like Noam Chomsky, Cornel West, and more, subscribe to Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack. $5 a month gets you the video version a day early. Remember, we take 0 ad dollars for this podcast. Or you can sign up on Substack for free and get the audio version a day later. Link in the video description box below.